Hamdi Rifai, who joins me now. He's the executive director at the Council of United Syrians and Americans. Hamdi, great to have you back.
Thank you.
As we heard from James Jeffrey there, Turkey is really in an impossible situation, particularly with the humanitarian crisis that we're seeing as a result of the violence. It's also in a very tough position with Russia. It's been pleading with Russia and Iran to, encourage the regime to stop its bombardment of Idlib. But we sort of knew that Idlib would come to a head in this way, because for a long time, the Assad regime has been pushing opposition fighters and corralling them to Idlib. So in a way that this was expected.
This was expected, and what President Erdogan is doing was, I think, anticipated. Turkey was between a rock and a hard place, and it still is. Because the fact of the matter is that Russia is bombing. Russia has been violating all of the agreements with Turkey, and Turkey has done everything possible to alleviate this rolling disaster. The problem is that Russia has not only turned a blind eye to this, but instead of actually acknowledging its obligations under the agreement, has participated in the slaughter of Syrians. And even though President Erdogan gave Russia many opportunities to change their path, they didn't. And in fact, Assad continued to try to get ground and did. Now Assad controls the M5 roadway. A lot of people are worried about that, because controlling the M5 roadway means that they can have quick access around Idlib to actually kill more.
So how productive can talks be at this point between Ankara and Moscow going forward?
Well, I think they can talk, but the reality is that anything that Russia says at this point really would have to be considered very carefully, because it's already showed a lack of interest in meeting its obligations, and it's certainly shown that it's interested in actually just keeping Assad. So until Russia changes that path, Turkey is going to have to do what it's going to have to do. There are 4 million civilians that depend on it, and Turkey has already sustained such a huge burden, carrying the weight of 4 million refugees in Turkey on its own already.
Where is NATO in all of this?
Well, NATO, as we know, Turkey is one of the original members of NATO and one of the most important members of NATO. And NATO should be helping Turkey. The reality is that we've seen maybe a little movement in terms of words of where NATO will be. We heard James Jeffries yesterday speak actually in Turkish and say that, provide his condolences to Turkey for the death of Turkey's fallen soldiers. And he did that in a very respectful way. So I think we've also seen Joel Rayburn and Secretary Pompeo make statements that are very supportive of Turkey's position and recognize that Turkey is defending itself, because Assad is trying to push 4 million people across its borders. So NATO, I think at some point, will have to acknowledge that Turkey's position is more a defensive one than anything else.
Hamdi Rifai, great to have you back. Really appreciate your analysis as always.
Thank you.